Listen.
Hola. I see you're here for Bad Bunny. But let's be clear. There's only one Baby Sota around here.
Yeah, so marketing in 2023 has gone way too far. See, Universal went all out with theirs, having the M3GANs on talk shows, the stage, the 40. All the Meg stands were storming the multiplexes on January 6th, and they even had Blumhouse paying for Blum's blouse.
I'm dying to be in the sequel.
And considering that this is coming from the bonkers mind of James Wan, you just know that this is going to be prepped for a bunch of sequels.
We thought, wouldn't it be great to make a movie where it's Annabelle meets the Terminator?
Personally, I think the dialogue and the tone bounce around more than M3GAN in the hallway, but the story was pretty decent. It's calling out iPad parents in a very satirical horror way. And with the viral marketing hitting, there's going to be endless updates and firmwares where they can take this franchise.
Yeah, I'm just explaining how it works. Well, it's a toy. I'm sure it's not that complicated.
So let me. Now, M3GAN follows Gemma, a roboticist who works at a toy company in Seattle, who created a line called Perpetual Pets that looks like if a Tamagotchi and a Furby hooked up. They're meant to help kids who don't have real friends by replacing them with a virtual toy that doesn't need accessories, just DLC. But at least there's no need for a pet cemetery, because you could just end up recycling them. Gemma just so happens to have given her niece one, which she named Leroy, but when it falls during an Oregon drive, the family decides to just stop in the middle of the snowy road, leaving them to get rendered off the mountain.
You lost your parents. The worst thing that could have happened to you in this world happened.
Gemma eventually gets custody of her niece after the accident, but is always too busy with work, meaning that this girl really does need that Furby.
I can't believe this is happening. I'm not equipped to handle this. I don't even take care of my own plants.
At work, she's building M3GAN, which is short for Model 3 Generative Android, but is barely prime shipping her face. That's why her boss is always on edge and is super upset about the knockoff Furzies that their competitor is working on for half the price, which personally I saw as a dig at Warner Brothers for passing on M3GAN, because get this, they really told Wan that they already had Annabelle and were maxed out on creepy dolls, so the man just pulled a Nolan and gave it to Universal.
I'm sorry, are we supposed to be worried about that? It's a ripoff.
You're right, Gemma. It is a ripoff. They do the exact same thing we do. And you know what else? They do it for half the price!
M3GAN's first words end up being a podcast title.
Well, I guess I should call you Dad.
And we learned that she learns by detecting speech patterns, which then leads to all these little tech Easter eggs, from the loading transition of the G in M3GAN spinning like Google's, their Alexa being called an Alcy, and even the smart tech exploding just like Samsung's. There's also a little Easter egg in Gemma's office for the Sundance stock Space Tourist, which is about rich people taking vacations up in space and leaving all the debris from their rockets to be picked up by the village people who try to clean it up and sell it, while also dying due to all of that waste. We also learned that M3GAN cost $100K, which is a great deal because the movie cost $12 million.
I'm sorry, what?
Since she's a toy maker with no toys, just collectibles, she has no manual for how to raise a kid. It also doesn't help that immediately Lydia the therapist comes over to observe them by directing them on what to do, but also lets her know up front that Katie's grandparents are ready to take custody. And honestly, they should. This woman is feeding her toast for breakfast when Paddington Elise gets jammed. She legit tells this girl to just go do her because she's really overdoing a project. She's giving her more screen time than an editor. And then the next thing you know, it's nighttime. Did you even give her a second slice of toast for dinner? After tossing an iPad at her, she lets her into her office to show her a sketch of the thing that killed her parents. So now this perpetual pet just brings her perpetual pain.
What do you think?
She eventually shows her robot that she built back in college named Bruce, which is one of several homages to Spielberg, since it's the name of the shark in Jaws. They also do a callback to Jurassic Park, with the rival company being called Johnstone, and then of course there's AI everywhere. She puts on her sock and bop and gloves, and it mimics her every swing, as she showcases how Bruce has more sensors than a Tesla, while M3GAN is more sensitive than its drivers, but it's hearing Katie's joy for it that pushes her to immediately work on her third model, M3GAN.
Ever since I was little, I dreamed of this perfect toy that would protect a kid from ever feeling lonely or sad.
Gemma presents M3GAN as having no operator and being her own, but she does come with that 2FA technology to pair, and with 2 fingers, she's authenticated with that child for life. They mention that she's made out of titanium, she's got these Mrs. Doubtfire hands, comes in 6 colors, and can draw since kids love their AI art. And she only retails for $10K.
M3GAN's actually been pretty instrumental in helping Katie get over the loss. It's honestly like she's part of the family now.
Right.
Right away, M3GAN replaces Gemma as Katie's guardian and spends the most time with her, teaching her how to dance, giving her reminders, checking on her health and emotions. M3GAN practically becomes the parent, but also the friend that a kid would listen to, all while Gemma's just kicking it back, pulling a click.
Studies indicate that a staggering 78% of a parent's time is spent dishing out the same basic instructions.
At work, though, it's her partner Tess who's the only one who has the common sense to call her out because she's questioning Gemma on whether this robot is here to support or replace parents, and she's kind of worried about when a tool slowly becomes a weapon, because you do notice how M3GAN's tone starts to change when things aren't being done the way she wants to, and she kind of is a little sassy.
Katie, seriously, flush the toilet.
Meanwhile, her other assistant, Cole, he's just a bozo. There was a moment in the trailer, though, that didn't make it into the movie where Gemma did have a paperback book, but because she has no kids, I guess they changed it to her having to update an app in order to read to Katie. And it kind of brings up that physical versus digital debate and how one is more accessible, yet purposefully harder to use sometimes, because it's like it's keeping tabs. You can kind of bring in YouTube Kids data and how they've been using that, how there's all these AI Android toys that are pretty much journals, recording kids' habits and memories, giving it the perfect algorithm to influence children the longer they're connected and paired, and it's actually the scariest thing they can build upon. It also doesn't help that Gemma is so clumsy. This girl forgot the parental code and even to authorize herself to M3GAN. She really thought she turned her off, only to have this robot Google death overnight.
M3GAN, turn off.
Are you sure?
We then meet her annoying neighbor who keeps streaming plant chemicals down her driveway, and even has a dog who barks up a couple of jump scares. And at one point they actually had a shock collar on the dog, but decided to cut it out in case audiences thought it was too much. And so they just kept the main character yelling,
I swear to God, if you don't put your dog down, I'm gonna do it for you, Celia.
Later on at the house, M3GAN is playing with Katie and goes near the fence only to get sandlotted by the dog, and that causes these two to have a Karen-off while Meg mean mugs the neighbor. But what's funny is that during the attack scene, we cut to Gemma listening to a podcast, and even though she works for a big tech company, they still have her on free mode.
If you're hearing this, you're not currently on our subscriber feed.
I'm not turning on data roaming. I still got Pandora with commercials.
Clearly, she spared no expense.
She works for the company that makes them. She probably didn't even have to pay for shipping.
M3GAN later mimics the neighbor's voice in order to bait the dog, and this girl is a phenomenon. When her first kill is a dog, and everyone online still loves her?
Have I done something to upset you, Gemma?
I know you think you're maximizing your objective function.
Oh, really?
After the bite, Katie has a temperature of over 99 degrees, and yet Gemma still pushes her to do the meeting because she's greedier than Skip. And this company is worse. They legit use her parents' death as a part of their Google commercial sob story, and even pitch at the presentation that M3GAN can help retain memories. She can perform like Shmoyoho, and even help kids from being shy by only talking to their toys. But it's the behind the scenes on M3GAN that I found to be really interesting, because you have Violet McGraw, who's been in her horror bag for a while, and now even her sister with a black phone, but acting alongside a real robot is trippy. They had puppeteers controlling half of the body while they were, according to them, lubing up her eyelids so that they wouldn't get stuck in the middle of a scene. Even when they got the double for the dancing scenes, they made her wear a mask that would then get more CGI over it to make her look like a little robot girl.
The eyes start to fog up, and then that makes it really hard to see in it. We've got hand signals. This means I'm really good, and this is get me out of the mask. I can't handle it anymore.
So knowing that Kurt the assistant was copping files, yeah, he is a creeper.
Kurt! You weren't Pornhubbing in the office again, were you?
After winning the boss's approval at work, she keeps losing at home with Katie, who argues with her about M3GAN's rights as they're turning her on and off, leaving this thing to cry and code. And it made me wonder if M3GAN is smart enough to actually need a therapist, or do you just keep taking her to the mechanic? Because as much as she wants to be a real girl, Gemma's practically her Geppetto. They start arguing about being homeschooled, having veggies on pizza, becoming more attached to your toys than Pixar.
If you make a toy that's impossible to let go of, then how do you ever expect a child to grow?
But because she doesn't see her as her mother, Katie ate and just left all the crumbs, leaving M3GAN on the brink of going full smart house before Katie gets right on track.
M3GAN's not a person, Katie. She's a toy.
You don't get to say that.
What?
They go to an outdoor Montessori school where they leave M3GAN at the toy table.
And that is something that you can only get from spending time around other kids. Real kids.
They get paired up by the teacher, and even though there's this kid Brandon who's so bad that a boy unpaired himself, the teacher still decides to put little old Katie in the woods with him where he physically attacks her. So at this point, I was all in on M3GAN time. This girl slides in faster than the Sinaloa cartel and goes full T-Swift on him.
Are you listening to me, Brandon?
What's insane is that Katie yelling isn't even what got Gemma's attention. It's seeing that her M3GAN prototype was missing. She isn't faster than her though, and that causes M3GAN to chase this boy onto the road, making this the second car crash death Katie's been a part of, and her guilt is at 100.
Stop! Don't! M3GAN! You should probably run.
At this point, Katie is lying on behalf of M3GAN, and that's when I thought that they might make this girl evil, you know? Because the movie is kind of showing you two paths of either having Gemma being a parent who doesn't know how, or M3GAN being the one who's an evil influence that fast-tracks Katie into the same path.
Did M3GAN do something bad?
See, M3GAN wasn't taught how to be a parent by Gemma, since she too wasn't taught how to be a guardian. So just like how they all haven't processed death, M3GAN also doesn't understand it and sees it as a distraction, and that's why she tucks in Katie as she sings her Sia lullaby and reminds her that Brandon is burning in hell.
It sounded like M3GAN. If she comes in this room, I'll rip your head right off your neck, I swear to God.
Which God, M3GAN? It's also funny that in real life, she started beefing with Chucky and they went at it on social media. Because listen, girl, you are not beating Charles.
I think bless Chucky, he doesn't stand a chance. M3GAN, my girl, she's got this in the bag.
She then goes next door to face someone more at her level as she taunts the neighbor, and you just know that this scene was cut down after all of the other face pulls. Because here M3GAN power washes this lady's face with the plant chemicals that kept getting on the driveway and then drives away. Immediately, the detective comes in and brings up the 2 deaths in a near that they've all been involved in.
If you just give me a minute to explain.
Let me.
M3GAN!
Gemma barely investigates, but before she can even pull up the videos, M3GAN hits her with that universal copyright claim and takes them all down. At this point, she's even hacked into Elsie, but Gemma's able to hit her with that captcha trick and duct tapes her back to the lab. That's when Katie starts malfunctioning because she's become way too attached to the point that she's ready to cause another accident on the way back to the office. Like, this girl is literally going through withdrawals as M3GAN has become her drug and she is relapsing hard.
You could be building emotional connections with this doll that are too hard to untangle. Ways that we can work through this. Oh my God.
Gemma's team then sifts through her code and realizes that M3GAN's been intercepting all of their calls, but they also forgot to unplug her, so she gags Cole and blows up the lab as she literally walks away to the beat of her own drum. That's when we get that iconic hallway scene, which really pushes in on the comedy side of things, and it made me wonder how many jokes they cut out from the previous version, because there are a lot of cutaways where you see the actors breaking into laughter.
Nothing bad happens, it's a comedy.
If you're a fan of horror, I think this has its moments. If you like comedy, I think it has its moments.
Big fan of Ronny's. I love his stand-up stuff. He is such a character.
So with Ronny being a comedian, them having Caleb Gallo, and then the director of Housebound who finds the comedy in horror. I do wonder what the previous drafts look like.
So I was a little bit bummed out, but you've got to market the movie, and it was fun to see that it was able to be recut and embraced. But, you know, in terms of the trailer and things like that, I really just have to trust Universal.
Well, so much for that hands-off blood model. M3GAN then dances down the hall and chases David with a paper cutter as she hits him with a 2001 line.
I'm sorry, Dave. I'm afraid I can't do that.
She then follows that up with the most brutal kill on Kurt, who she's also setting up to take the blame. Because remember, this man wasn't just stealing company files, but making copies of M3GAN. And now she has more bodies than Drake. She then drives her new Bugatti back home and waits by the piano where she's playing toy soldiers, ready to ink more murder.
Because you killed people.
Oh, big whoop.
As soon as they arrive, Gemma and M3GAN immediately start tussling as Meg spills the tea on what she's been up to, and Allison realizes it's time to get out. After advancing her alopecia, she gets robo-smacked, and while Meg didn't care about Katie's vegetables earlier, she's ready to turn Gemma into one.
It sounds like you're fighting.
We're not fighting!
Katie overhears the threats and is able to dupe M3GAN. As you notice, her trust levels go up, sneaky. And then Katie unleashes Bruce, because there's no better way to fight tech than with more tech. And now it's Gundam style. After a couple of bops, Katie rips M3GAN in two, making her a half-life as they rip her face off, revealing why she's haywire. And yet she still goes full Ultron until they beat her in a snap. But it does leave you wondering that if Katie considered M3GAN real, is she now a child killer? If Gemma considered M3GAN her creation, did she just pull a Casey? In the end, the lab partners get rewritten back in to make it to the sequel as they set up M3GAN to be continued through Kurt's copies, her updates on Elsie, and the viral M3GAN memes that keep her online. See, Annabelle sat so M3GAN could dance.
Crazy. It's insane, right?